Imagine this. You're standing alone in a vast, windowless room. The walls stretch so high they vanish into darkness. In your hand, you're holding a key, cool, metallic, unmistakably heavy. A single door stands before you, slightly ajar, golden light leaking through the cracks. Behind it lies everything you've ever wanted: purpose, mastery, fulfillment, the version of you you've only glimpsed in dreams. You've been told your whole life that you're meant to walk through that door. But instead, you turn around. Not because something stopped you. Not because someone forced you. But because something inside you whispered, "Not yet." And then, that whisper grew fangs. What if you're not ready? What if they see through you? What if you lose it all the moment you get it? So you stay in the room. The key in your hand rusts. The door never closes, but you never walk through it either. Now here's the question that haunts you in the silence. Why would someone fear their own potential more than their failure? It doesn't make sense on the surface. You crave success, you dream of rising, of becoming something, someone. But when the moment comes, you flinch. You stall. You derail. And sometimes, you even destroy what you've built. It's not an accident. It's not bad timing. It's not just fear. It's something deeper. You call it procrastination, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, perfectionism. You use those words like bandages over a bullet wound. They make you feel functional. They make the bleeding look clean. But the truth is far more terrifying. You are at war with yourself. Not metaphorically. Literally. There are factions within you, like rival nations sharing the same soil. One part builds empires, the other sets them on fire. One dreams of greatness, the other prays you stay invisible. And in that silent civil war, your potential becomes the battlefield. No one teaches you how to fight the war inside. The world tells you to hustle, to grind, to believe in yourself. To wake up at 5 a.m. and drink kale. It tells you to manifest success like it's a vision board away. But that's all surface. Performance. Optics. Like trying to fix a cracked mirror by cleaning the glass. Here's the bitter paradox. You can have all the talent, all the intelligence, all the opportunity, and still lose. Not because life beat you, but because you sabotaged your own ascent. Why? Why would you betray yourself at the moment of becoming? Why do you spend more energy building cages than keys? Think back. Not to your greatest failure, but to your near success. That time you almost made it. When things were going well, maybe too well, and suddenly, you stopped showing up. You ghosted your passion. You missed deadlines you didn't have to. You picked fights with people who cared about you. You drank too much. Slept too little. Lied to yourself with such skill that you believed it. And then you said, "See? I knew I'd mess it up." But what if you didn't mess up? What if that was the plan all along? What if self-sabotage isn't a bug in your system, but a feature? Because here's the cruel truth buried in the shadows of your mind: failure is familiar. Success is terrifying. You've lived with the pain of not being enough. You've made peace with mediocrity. But actualizing your full potential? That's dangerous. It threatens every part of your identity that grew up in limitation. The version of you that stayed small had to be small, for safety, for love, for survival. Now, growth feels like betrayal. Progress feels like treason. That's the war. Not between you and the world. Not between you and your past. But between who you were told to be, and who you truly are. And until you understand why that war exists, you'll keep planting landmines on the road to your own freedom. You'll call it fate. Bad luck. You'll convince yourself it wasn't meant to be. But in the quiet moments, those aching, empty, honest seconds between distractions, you feel it. The pull of who you could be. And the resistance that keeps you from becoming. So here's the great question. What force within you would rather see you suffer than evolve, and why does it have so much power? This isn't a story about motivation. It's not a lesson in goal setting. It's a descent into the basement of your mind, into the cellar where you locked away the parts of you too dangerous to face. Because to end the war, you have to understand the enemy. And that enemy looks like you. You've seen the symptoms, the hesitation, the distraction, the slow suffocation of your own ambition. But now we go beneath the surface, into the soil where this self-sabotage takes root. You must ask not what you're doing to yourself, but why you do it. And the answer is older than you. It begins in your early years, and the silent contracts you made with the world. Contracts you never signed, but obeyed nonetheless. Maybe you learned that being too loud, too smart, too ambitious made people uncomfortable. Maybe you were punished, or ignored, or shamed. Slowly, quietly, you absorbed a lie. If you shine too brightly, you'll be alone. Carl Jung called this the birth of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we exile because they don't fit into the persona we build to survive. Not because those parts are evil, but because they are powerful, unruly, unacceptable in the eyes of others. So you bury them. Your assertiveness, your desire, your hunger, your capacity for greatness. You hide them beneath layers of compliance, niceness, self-deprecation. You shrink to fit. And what you bury doesn't die, it waits. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your shadow doesn't want to be ignored. It wants to be integrated. But until you face it, it will rule you from the darkness, whispering doubts, sabotaging your progress, orchestrating your failure like a conductor of chaos. And still, the problem runs deeper. Enter Friedrich Nietzsche. He once wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome." He saw the human being as a bridge, not a static creature, but a becoming. A constant evolution. But to evolve means to destroy the current self. And therein lies the terror. Every step toward your potential is a form of death. The death of the known. The death of comfort. The death of identity. You don't sabotage your growth because you hate yourself. You do it because growth feels like annihilation. You are loyal to who you've been, even if that version of you is suffering. And suffering, as Arthur Schopenhauer believed, is the essence of life. He said, we forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. Society conditions you to trade authenticity for belonging, creativity for conformity, purpose for predictability. You become a mirror, reflecting back what others expect. And so the war intensifies. Your nature wants to become. Your conditioning wants to belong. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre pushed this even further. In his view, existence precedes essence. You aren't born with a fixed purpose, you must create it. But the weight of that freedom is unbearable for most. So, like Sartre said, people fall into bad faith, a state where you lie to yourself to escape the burden of responsibility. You tell yourself, this is just who I am. But it's not. It's who you've settled into being. Self-sabotage is bad faith in action. It's easier to fail on your own terms than to risk the agony of reaching and still falling short. Better to drown yourself than be thrown overboard. That way, you keep control. That way, you can say, I chose this. And here lies the tragic brilliance of self-destruction. It's not weakness, it's strategy. A strategy born of fear. Fear of change. Fear of success. Fear of the unknown. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, offered a counterweight to this despair. He wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. He believed that meaning, not comfort, was the highest pursuit. But meaning requires sacrifice. It demands we step into the fire, willingly, and let it burn away what no longer serves us. That fire is your potential. It will not just illuminate, it will consume. Your excuses. Your masks. your need for approval. All of it must die for the real you to emerge. Aldous Huxley warned that most people don't want that kind of freedom. He said, most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Comfort numbs you. Predictability sedates you. And before you know it, you're in a cage with the door wide open, but you've forgotten how to fly. Here's the brutal irony. You sabotage your potential because you don't believe you deserve it. But that belief isn't yours, it was given to you. Inherited. Installed. It came from a parent who was too broken to see your light. From a culture that rewards mediocrity and mocks ambition. From a school that punished difference and praised obedience. From friends who wanted you to stay the same because they were afraid of losing you. So you began to equate success with isolation. Power with danger. Excellence with arrogance. You protect yourself from pain by staying small. But in doing so, you guarantee the very suffering you hope to avoid. This is the hidden architecture of self-sabotage. A fractured self. A terror of transformation. A deep loyalty to the familiar. A world that benefits from your submission. Until you see it clearly, you will fight shadows, not the source. You'll try to fix symptoms instead of healing the system. You'll read books, set goals, repeat affirmations, but all while holding the brakes beneath the surface. To end the war, you must become dangerous to your old self. You must betray who you were taught to be. You must reclaim the parts you buried, not just the wounds, but the wildness. This is not a mindset shift. It is a psychological rebellion. And rebellions start with truth. You think the damage is contained. That your self-sabotage only affects you. That if you're not ready, not prepared, not in the right mindset, it's just your personal struggle, your private prison. But you're wrong. This war within doesn't just shape your inner world. It bleeds into everything. Into your relationships, your choices, your energy, your capacity to love, to create, to contribute. What dies inside you doesn't stay buried, it rots. And the stench leaks out. Let's make this real. Picture a man with brilliance in his hands but chains around his heart. He has ideas that could move mountains, but he doesn't act. Instead, he scrolls. He drinks. He argues over things that don't matter. He dates people who drain him. He takes jobs that numb him. He calls it normal. But if you looked closely, you'd see it. The quiet grief of a man haunted by what he could have been. He doesn't need enemies. He's already conquered by his own mind. And this is not rare. This is epidemic. Across the world, billions carry the weight of unlived lives. Not because they lack potential, but because they buried it. And this burial isn't clean. It distorts everything. Let's talk about identity. When you consistently avoid becoming who you truly are, your mind must create a narrative to make sense of the dissonance. It's called cognitive dissonance reduction, a defense mechanism that protects your sense of self. So when you don't chase your dreams, your mind whispers. They were unrealistic anyway. When you sabotage a relationship, it tells you. They would have left eventually. When you flake on a project that mattered. I'm just not passionate anymore. These aren't reflections of truth. They're edits. Rewrites. Carefully curated illusions that keep you from feeling the sting of your own betrayal. But illusions come with a cost. The more you lie to yourself, the more you fracture. Your mind splits between the mask and the mirror. And eventually, you forget which one is real. Now add culture to the mix. We live in a world that rewards performance over authenticity, output over insight, attention over depth. You're taught to optimize yourself like a machine, brand yourself like a product, monetize every second of your life. And yet, beneath all that noise, your soul still aches for meaning. But meaning requires courage. And courage threatens the system. A system that thrives on your self-doubt. A system that needs you small, compliant, uncertain. Do you really think it's an accident that you're addicted to your phone? That your attention span is eroding? That your deepest thoughts are interrupted by notifications every 6 minutes? This is engineered distraction. Because a distracted mind is a controlled mind. And a controlled mind never asks dangerous questions, like, what am I truly capable of? You've become too tired to rebel. You call it burnout, overwhelm, late-stage capitalism. And yes, all those things are real. But there's something deeper beneath the exhaustion. Unexpressed potential becomes poison. When you don't write the book, speak the truth, build the business, love fully, lead bravely, something inside you turns sour. That energy doesn't vanish. It contorts. It becomes irritability, restlessness, self-hatred, sometimes even physical illness. Your body keeps score because your soul keeps screaming. And the consequences don't stop with you. Children grow up watching adults who gave up, who play it safe, who dim their light. They learn not from your advice, but from your example. And so the cycle repeats. Another generation raised not to rise, but to cope. Apathy becomes hereditary. You sabotage your potential, and the world gets dimmer. That book you never wrote could have healed someone. That invention you abandoned could have saved a life. That movement you never started could have changed history. But it stayed locked inside, buried beneath fear and self-preservation. This is the hidden cost of your internal war. You rob the world of your gifts. And then we wonder why society feels hollow. Why meaning feels rare. Why connection feels fake. It's because we're surrounded by people pretending to be fine while quietly dying of dreams deferred. It's not just you. It's everyone playing small at the same time. And the worst part? You start to believe the lie that your potential was never real to begin with. You say things like, if it was meant to happen, it would've. Maybe I just wasn't cut out for that. Some people are meant for more. I'm not one of them. But those aren't insights. They're scars. Left long enough, self-sabotage becomes identity. You no longer have limiting beliefs, you are a limiting belief. A walking compromise. A ghost with a pulse. And ghosts don't change the world. So, what can you do? First, name it. See the war for what it is, not laziness, not lack of discipline, but a spiritual and psychological crisis. A fundamental rupture between who you are and who you were told to be. Second, understand, you're not broken. You're bound. By trauma. By culture. By fear. By narratives you never consented to but now carry like gospel. Your sabotage is a symptom. The root is in the stories you live by. Change the story, and you change the war. But that change won't come cheap. It will cost you comfort, relationships, certainties, perhaps even the version of you that everyone accepted. But it's either that or decay. You were not born to self-destruct. That is a script you inherited, a myth you were sold. Burn it. So now you see it. The war, the wounds, the cost. You've glimpsed the battlefield inside you, where dreams go to die and excuses are crowned as kings. But understanding the war is only the first step. Now comes the harder part, the part that demands blood, truth, and transformation. Rebellion. Because healing is not a retreat into peace. It's an act of war against everything inside you that prefers silence over song, shadows over sovereignty. You don't end self-sabotage by soothing it. You end it by turning your back on the self that needed it. But first, a warning. This rebellion isn't clean. It won't come with motivational quotes and a 5-step checklist. It will feel like madness. Like loss. Because to rise, you must betray the identity that made safety your god. Are you willing to do that? Because that's the price of freedom. Start here, with betrayal. You have to betray the version of you that survived. That person who stayed quiet to avoid punishment, who settled to feel loved, who chose numbness over risk, that version is not evil. But it is obsolete. You do not owe loyalty to your former limitations. You do not owe your childhood trauma the right to dictate your adult destiny. You must become a traitor to your past self in order to be loyal to your future. Most never make it here. They protect their identity more than their potential. They'd rather be consistent than free. But you're ready to break something. And that's sacred. Next, embrace the irrational. Yes, irrational. Because rational thinking alone won't save you. Your sabotage is rational. It's based on logic. If I risk less, I'll hurt less. If I don't try, I won't fail. That's a smart equation if your only goal is to survive. But if your goal is to become, you'll have to do things that don't make sense to your conditioned mind. You'll have to write when you don't feel inspired. Speak when your voice shakes. Say yes to terrifying opportunities before you feel ready. You'll have to leap when everything in you screams, "Not yet." You'll have to build courage by walking straight into the burning house of your fear. Call it faith. Call it rebellion. Call it whatever you want. But this is how you rewire the system. Repetition is your weapon. Not discipline. Not willpower. Repetition. Because your old self was built through repetition too, of pain, of beliefs, of avoidance. So you must repeat new patterns until they etch themselves into your nervous system. This is not poetic. It's neurological. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is real. But it doesn't respond to hope. It responds to action. Small, consistent, disobedient action. You start showing up before you believe in yourself. You start speaking before the confidence arrives. You build identity through evidence, one rebellious habit at a time. Don't wait for self-worth. Prove it to yourself. Reframe failure. Radically. Because as long as failure is shameful, you will run from growth. But when failure becomes sacred, you will run toward it. Like a warrior seeking battle. Not because you want to lose, but because every wound is a door. Every time you fail and don't die, your old story loses power. Your fear shrinks. Your identity expands. You collect scars not as symbols of brokenness, but as badges of becoming. You'll start to crave discomfort. Because you know what comfort costs. Be wary of comfort. It is not your friend. Comfort is how the war wins. Slowly. Quietly. Through one more hour of Netflix. One more week of inaction. One more year spent rationalizing your silence. Comfort is where potential goes to starve politely. So if it's comfort you're chasing, you're not growing, you're settling. True rebellion feels like discomfort that purifies. It burns, yes, but it burns clean. You'll feel it, that sacred ache of expansion. That pain that tells you you're alive again. Now look at history. Those who broke free, who shattered their own inner cages, were not special. They were not braver than you. They just rebelled louder. Consider Malcolm X. Once a criminal, lost in the machinery of violence and addiction. He could have stayed there. Could have said, "This is who I am." But he betrayed that version of himself. He found books in prison. Found purpose. Rewrote his identity with clarity and fire. He didn't just fight the world. He fought himself. Or Frida Kahlo. Shattered spine. Broken body. She could have surrendered. Instead, she painted through agony. Painted into agony. Her art wasn't just expression, it was rebellion against despair, against silence, against every voice that told her she had to be fragile. These aren't heroes in the mythical sense. These are templates. Proof that transformation is possible if you choose it over comfort. And finally, create something. Anything. Because creation is the antidote to self-sabotage. It's the ultimate proof that you exist, that your hands still move, that your spirit still dares. Write something no one asked for. Build something no one approved. Speak something that terrifies you. That act, no matter how small, is revolutionary. Because you're not just rebelling against your doubt. You're becoming dangerous to the system that needs you tame. This is not self-help. This is war. And you are the one who decides if it ends with surrender or resurrection. Your rebellion doesn't start when you feel powerful. It starts the moment you refuse to let your fear sit in the driver's seat one more day. So here's the mirror. You know the war. You know the wound. You know the cost. Now you decide, will you burn your mask or live inside it forever? You've made it here. Through the ruins. Through the fire. Past the false masks and the buried corpses of who you were told to be. You've seen the battlefield not just around you, but within you. You've traced the sabotage to its source. You've chosen rebellion over resignation. But there's one final truth. And it will not comfort you. It will not flatter you. It will undo you. Because this truth is not for the version of you that needs validation. It's for the one deep below, the one who has waited in silence for years to remember who they are. So take a breath. This is where everything breaks open. The ultimate truth is this. There is no enemy. There never was. The war you've been fighting? The sabotage, the fear, the doubt, the hesitation, it's all been you. Every obstacle you cursed, every delay you blamed on fate or flaws or forces beyond you, all of it came from within. But not from weakness. From wisdom. Yes, wisdom. Self-sabotage isn't insanity. It's intelligence misdirected. A survival strategy written in a language your conscious mind couldn't read. It protected you. From risk. From loss. From rejection. From exile. And now, it's time to say thank you. Not to the sabotage itself, but to the you who believed that staying small was safety. That silence was love. That invisibility was peace. That version of you loved you the best way it knew how. And that love, it was real. But love rooted in fear must evolve, or it becomes a cage. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he also knew, before you become, you must descend. Into the unconscious. Into the dark. Into the parts of you that aren't glamorous. The parts that rage. That envy. That long to destroy and to disappear. Those are not evil parts. They are orphaned parts. They are the wounded guardians of your survival, still holding the keys to your destiny, still waiting for you to stop fighting them and start listening. You don't heal self-sabotage by killing it. You heal it by transcending it. Integration. Not elimination. Wholeness. Not perfection. So here is the paradox, the one final puzzle piece you've been avoiding, perhaps your whole life. You are not sabotaging your potential. You are protecting your identity. You don't fear failure. You fear becoming someone so unfamiliar that you no longer recognize yourself. Because when you stop sabotaging, you'll have no more excuses. No more crutches. No more comforting lies. You will have to face your power. And power, real power, is terrifying because it means responsibility. It means walking into the world with no mask to hide behind. It means being seen, being judged, being misunderstood. It means standing naked in the arena, heart exposed, soul on fire, and saying, "This is who I am." Take it or leave it. Can you handle that? Can you love yourself at that level of exposure? Most can't. So they stay small. They say they're stuck. They build shrines to their potential but never worship there. Because true becoming doesn't give you more control. It asks you to surrender. To let go of every version of you that was built on fear. To become something wild. Untamed. Sacred. Whole. And here's the part no one tells you. You already are. You already are the thing you're chasing. The freedom. the strength, the clarity, the purpose. It's not out there. It's in here, waiting. Beneath the noise. Beneath the war. Beneath the carefully rehearsed stories you've used to survive. Your potential is not something you unlock. It is something you remember. You don't become powerful. You return to the power you buried to belong. And that is the final act of rebellion. To stop chasing. To stop fixing. To stop performing. And to be. In that moment, you will feel the war dissolve, not because you won, but because you stopped believing in sides. You realized the enemy was never your fear. Never your doubt. Never your failure. The enemy was your resistance to what already lives in you. And now, that resistance is gone. So what now? Now, you live like someone who's remembered. Not with arrogance. With honor. You show up to the page. The canvas. The stage. The meeting. The mirror. Not because you feel ready, but because you are ready. You stop waiting for permission, because you realize you were the one holding the pen all along. You speak not to be heard, but because you can no longer stay silent. You love not to be chosen, but because your heart overflows. You walk into your day knowing there is nothing to prove. There is only everything to express. This is what it means to end the war. Not with a flag, but with a flame. A quiet, burning truth that spreads from your bones outward. And when others see you, really see you, they'll ask, how did you do it? How did you break the spell? How did you stop sabotaging your life? And you'll smile. Not because you have the answer, but because now you are the answer.